So, I can imagine that this looks really silly. You can maybe imagine that it looks a little bit like some deep sea fish with a light at the front. But you have to imagine if your shroud is kind of too short for, let's say, your barrel length. So, let's say something like this. And you would add a pressure on the front of it. So, let's say that it would sit like this. Then you would like to extend your light, because otherwise you will cast a shadow on your on the projection you want to make. You will shine light on your suppressor or your barrel, so you will light up yourself, so it's really easy for people to see where you exactly are. So that's where something like this comes in, and this is not the correct length you can see, but you get the idea of this. So with this, you can put your hand on your shroud, access the pressure pad on the top, and you got your light on the top. This meaning when you sit behind cover, something like that, the light is always be able to shine without you shining on your cover. Also, you have to imagine you got your sights on top. You always want to see where you are shooting. So you will automatically always put your light away from your cover. One thing you do have to keep in mind, of course, with this is that you need a sight that sits higher than, let's say you got also the sights that are really low. Then you want the ones with the riser, because otherwise you will look at your light, and that's of course not what you want. So no matter if it's for paintball, airsoft, or let's say firearms, that still applies. It's the same. So in this case, you will be able to press the light, turn it off, and without casting a shadow on it. Light on your barrel. One thing you do see is, like in this case, my sensor is a little bit broken, so sometimes it will go on. The cable is poking up like this, so it will obstruct your sight. It can also maybe catch some branch, something like that, and it will yank and destroy your cable, like I have. It can accidentally turn on. So I've made these little clippers. You can just place them on top, and there's a groove in the top part, so you can kind of hide your cabling a little bit. But what it mainly does, instead of just simply hiding it, is kind of put it all back down. So if something like a branch goes, it got less place to catch it. And of course, if you want to really prevent this one, because this is a two-piece design, it needs to have this piece solid without a groove. You can also use some tape or something like that, but then it becomes a little bit more permanent. You cannot remove it really fast in the case that this thing breaks and you want to make this thing smaller. You got this, of course, this is Picatinny mount. You can mount it at a different location. This is better shown on a model that of course have some Picatinny wheels on the side. This one doesn't. Also, of course, if you don't need a long wheel extension like that, you can use a smaller one and mount your light on top of that one. This is of course one solid piece to print, and you can still put the pressure sensor on there and things like that. So of course with this one you can see it makes more sense to use this length, and then it looks already less ridiculous. Of course it helps if it got the same color, so it doesn't jump out as an attachment. But let's say you don't want to use the suppressor, or you want, let's say in case of paintball, really easy, say like, okay, I want to use a shorter barrel, I don't want to have this long barrel anymore, I want to take a different one. Then you got this long thing sticking out. So you can decide to say, okay, I remove the clippers first, and mount the light on the side. Okay, yeah, you got it, the light. And then you got the light right there. Of course, in this case, you got still this thing there. You could say, if it's really an emergency, just yank this thing off and break it. Then you got still the mount. So you got your pressure pad still there. But then you got the light there. Different scenarios, of course, why you would even want to do that. But of course, you can also print a smaller palm and just swap it out if you got the time for that, things like that. But it is an option. You can really easily, that's the kind of the point you can, because it still uses a real mount. If this breaks or you don't want to use it anymore, that is this length, you can change it up because it uses the same real mount. And this cabling is not used with tape, so it doesn't take ages to remove. It's really easy and flexible platform this way. That's kind of what I want to demonstrate with it. And yeah, why you want to need that flexibility, that's up to you, of course. Doesn't have to be an emergency, but let's say for airsoft thing and paintball, it's more easy of use. And for firearms as well, of course. It's not always an emergency, but yeah, that's kind of the point of the system. Again, there will be some different lengths because you can already see this got different barrel lengths, different silencer lengths. You will need different lengths. So I'll make a few of them and hopefully it matches up with yours. Here we'll show up a close-up of the light mounts. Of course, when it's a small one that can fit on an Ender 1 printing bed, it will be one piece. Of course with an opening, so you can put your light pad inside, but I forgot to apply the boolean on this part, so I was happy that it was finished printing and then discovered like shit, I was way too distracted and forgot to apply it. So it's a waste of plastic right now. Or just a real extender, you can say. But anyways, this is how it would look normally. You can slide your pressure pad in that part. That I later designed was this panel right here. It's harder to remove than I was thinking, but because I did not want it to happen that this wire would stick out at the top, or maybe you get tangled with it or something like that, sticking like a branch or stuff like that. So now you can put it down and just put a clip like this around it, slide it, because it's movable like that. So that maybe you consider that a downside, but I kind of wanted to have it loose, so it's also relatively easily to remove. Let's say that this mount would break, or you would remove the suppressor for some reason that's really important at that moment to be compact, and you could say, okay, I'm gonna remove the light, mount this same big tinny mount to the side, take out the pressure pad, or you leave it at the place and just break this thing in half in an emergency case that it needs to be compact, something like that. Then it's really easy to remove it without any tools. That's kind of the point that I wanted to make, without having to worry about taking a lot of time to disassemble it or something like that. I don't know what type of situations you're getting yourself involved, but yeah, let's say that that's important. Then it can be done. You know, that's the point. That's also why I kept the real mount on it and not that I mounted it with the screws, because this way you can remove this ROM, put it at a real lower below, and you don't have to you don't are stuck with a light that you cannot mount if this thing breaks in some instance. But to do the two pieces together, you just use two long screws inside. You will insert them from here, use a long key to install them. Yeah, it's surprisingly strong, I must say. Even with the light on, you move it like this. Of course you don't want to unscrew and screw the screw in and out. Of course you will damage the threads then, but if you do it just one time, leave it in place like that, then it is a nice, it works better than I was expecting, let's say it like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it about the mount. There's not much more to say. Technically this piece you can also place on a Picatinny reel, but because it's basically a Picatinny reel cover. But keep in mind that it slides easy, so it's probably not a nice thing to use. But you can imagine maybe you want to have this part smooth, so you can put your thumb right there and transition to that piece. But again, I would not recommend it because it slides, things like that. But yeah, it can be done. Maybe if you put a lot of them on there and have something in the back that kind of holds it in place. Let's say, for instance, this, if that would fit. It could be done, you know, you get my point a little bit. It's got some space left, but then it cannot slide. In this case it can still, but you get the point if it would fit nicely. Yeah, but this is not my... I would not recommend it, but it can be done if it is necessary for something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and I hope it's useful for you guys out there. That will be for me at least, but yeah, see you guys next time.